Good morning, students. I hope you're all doing well. So let me begin this class by asking you a small question. Have you ever wondered how it would be like to travel around the world as a single journey? Have you ever wondered or ever dreamt of doing such thing? If yes, then this lesson is for you. Okay, so today we are going to look at the lesson called Journey by Train, and it is an excerpt from the novel Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. So before going on into the lesson, let's have a quick look on Jules Verne. So Jules Verne is a French writer who was born on February 8, 1828 and died on March 24, 1905. And most of his French writings laid the foundations of the modern science fiction. And some of his notable works are the novels Around the World in 80 Days, A Journey to the Center of the Earth, The Mysterious Island, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, From the Earth to the Moon, and 5 Weeks in a Balloon. So during the 20th century, remember that he was a French writer, so most of his works were in French language. So during the 20th century, what happened was Verne's works were translated into more than 140 languages, making him one of the world's most translated authors. And a number of successful motion pictures were also made from or based on Verne's novel. Starting in 1916, they started with a novel called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and also it was remade by Walt Disney in 1954. And the other famous movie, which was hailed to be one of the first science fiction movies ever to be made, was From the Earth to the Moon, again based on Jules Verne's novel. It was released on 1958. So it is only justifiable that Verne's influence extended beyond literature and the film, and also into the world of science and technology. Okay, where he is the one who served as an inspiration to generations of scientists and inventors and explorers. So for more than 130 years, adventurers such as Nellie Bly, Wiley Post and Steve Fossett followed the footsteps of Verne's fictional hero Phileas Fogg, who is also the hero of a story, by attempting to circumnavigate. Circumnavigate means to go around the world, to travel around the world. And so to circumnavigate the globe in record-breaking times. So moving on to the novel Around the World in 80 Days. It was initially published in 1873 and it was a travel adventure novel written by Jules Verne. So this novel gives an account of how Phileas Fogg, the protagonist of this novel, travels around the world within 80 days, accompanied by his valet Passepartout to win a bet. So an Englishman, Phileas Fogg, places a bet that he can circumnavigate the world in 80 days. And the novel is all about the events that occur throughout the novel, describing the adventures that Phileas Fogg met with while he was traveling around the world. So Phileas Fogg is the protagonist of this novel. And Jane Passepartout is Fogg's paid servant or valet, and he is a strange fellow who accompanies Phileas Fogg in this wonderful trip around the world. If the novel had a protagonist, then it is only justifiable to have an antagonist or a villain, right? So who do you think is the villain in the novel? So here the villain is the time, because Phileas Fogg has already made a bet that placed a bet that he will circumnavigate the world within 80 days, and all the adventures and hindrances that occurred to him while he was trying to circumnavigate the earth within 80 days only provided him a delay from reaching his place, London, within 80 days. Otherwise, he would lose all his fortune. So the bet money was $20,000, and if he failed to reach within the 80 days, it was set up that he would forego all his fortunes. So the point of this novel is that with human effort and willpower, enormous obstacles can be overcome. This is the message that Jules Verne tries to express in this novel, and also he highlights the fact that how industrialization and how transport facilities, how the transformation of the transport facilities, the inventions of machines and railways and other such mechanisms have eased the mode of transportation, and conserves time as well. He highlights that fact also in this novel. You can also look at this particular novel as a travel guide, because the scene shifts very swiftly, very fastly, because as each chapter passes, it shows some kind of a transition from one country to another, and the scenes and the setting, it gets constantly changing, and it also shows the contrast between one country and the other. It also showcases how the beauty of each countries and the peculiarities of each countries too. This novel shows that how Phileas Fogg adjusts or makes do of the situation, in whichever situation he is in, and he adjusts to that country's formality and that country's culture as well. So moving on into our lesson, Journey by Train. When we read that lesson, we can see that how an Englishman in the early days perceived or understood India when he encountered it for the first time. So we can see that Verne did an extensive research, and he also displays a great amount of knowledge on India, although he never visited India himself personally. These chapters show that he did an extensive research on the geography, the wildlife, and the manners and culture of Indian people. So this knowledge that makes the setting more real. So as modern readers, it is important for us to recognize that there is a bias or there is a difference in his description of this place. So we should always remember that he speaks from an outsider, from a foreigner's perspective, and not from an inlander, from a native's perspective. Native means we are the native people of India, and sometimes we find it silly when he describes certain things in detail, because we know that for sure that these are the things that exist in a particular landscape. For example, he describes the tigers and elephants with great devotion, but we know that they are the native animals of the land, and it won't be very exciting for us to read. So this reflects the idea of the British people on Indian people. So he also clearly believes in the superiority of the British influence, and which is not something that is very uncommon during that time and era. We should also note that this sense of superiority makes them feel entitled. And if you look at this lesson, we can see that the elephant driver is not given a name, or not most of the characters that are outsiders, that they consider as outsiders, are not given a name, whereas all the Englishmen have names than that. So they clearly have a distinction. In this novel, Jules Verne makes a clear distinction between the Western people, the Englishmen, as well as the outsiders, the so-called outsiders or foreign people. which is usually the Oriental and anyone outside of Europe. So I'll wind up till here. So just keep in mind that Jules Verne is a prolific science fiction writer, and Our Lesson Journey by Train is an extract from his novel Around the World in 80 Days, which is an adventure novel, as well as it is a travel guide too. Okay, so the novel highlights the importance of transportation, the evolution of transport facilities, and the global reach it had due to colonization by the European people. Thank you.